So a couple of weeks ago, Alex Patterson of the Doctor Who Guide posted a video where each day of January he watched every episode of Doctor Who that aired that day. It was a compilation of some vlogs, and he's been doing vlogs of watching episodes of Doctor Who on the day that they aired, every episode that aired on those particular dates. And it got me wondering, how many months of the year has each Doctor had at least one episode in across their years as the Doctor? So in this video, we're going to have a look at which Doctors had episodes when, and who had the most number of months in a year, and who had episodes in the most numbers, and who had episodes in the most months of a calendar year. Let's get started. Okay, before we get started, it's worth going through some ground rules. Firstly, this is covering all years of a Doctor's tenure, not one specific year at a time. There's only been one year where there's been an episode every month, and then all the other years, apart from the wilderness years where there's been some years that had none, then it's been a kind of up and down however months of that particular year there have been. So what is being counted here? We are going to be, of course, looking at all 892 episodes. We're so close to 900. Which cover all 319 stories from the first episode of An Unearthly Child, simply titled An Unearthly Child, through to The Reality War, part 2 of a two-parter with Wishworld. By the way, regarding animated, reconstructed, or remade missing episodes, we're not counting those. We're going to be counting the original ones, even if they're still missing. I'm also going to touch upon when Sharda parts 1 to 6 would have aired, even though they didn't air on TV, at least in the UK, and the movie version aired in the US in 2018. But I'll mention when it was originally supposed to air. I'm also going to be counting the animated specials, The Infinite Quest and Dreamland, in their full 42 to 45 minute long versions. So I will not be counting Infinite Quest as a 13-parter or Dreamland as a 6-parter. They'll be counted as their single 42 to 45 minute runtimes. I will be counting the following minisodes: Dimensions in Time, Born Again, aka Children Need 2005, Time Crash, Space and Time, Pond Life in its full 5-minute long version, the full 5 to 15, or is it 15? Its full length version that aired the same day as The Time of the Daleks, so not the 5-part version, the full long version. The Great Detective and Destination Skaro. Hello, Nick from a couple of days later after recording most of this video. Whilst editing the 12th Doctor bit, I realised I should have included The Doctor's Meditation, which is the minisode prologue prior to The Magician's Apprentice that was shown in US cinemas with the 3D screenings of Dark Water, Death and Heaven. It is one of 2 prologue episodes along with Prologue, which was released a few days before. But I'm going to include Doctor's Meditation because that feels like a bit of a minisode in its own right, as well as a prologue to Series 9 Magician's Apprentice, whilst the Series 9 prologue is with the Series 6 and 7 prequels, so I'm not going to include that. So the only prequel prologues I'll count on this list will be Pond Life, the full-length version, The Great Detective, The Night of the Doctor, and The Doctor's Meditation. Won't include any of the other Series 6 or 7 prequels, the Series 8 prequel, or the Series 9 prologue, or any of the other minisode things that they did for Series 5, 6, and 7, and the 2013 specials. So, just those ones. Anyway, back to me. Also, Doctor appearances in the spin-offs, The Sarah Jane Adventures, and Class. The Doctor did not appear in K9 and Company or Torchwood, or K9, the Australian series, and I'm only counting those series, I'm not counting BBV or Real Time. The War Between the Land and Sea, we'll see when that comes out, but I'm not expecting the Doctor to appear. Hello, Nick from the future. Whilst filming earlier, I realised I hadn't mentioned Search Out Science when I was getting towards the end, so I'm going to include Search Out Science, the episode of Search Out Space, where the 7th Doctor, Ace, and K9 appeared alongside a character called Cedric. And I'm going to count that as a appearance. So I'm going to include that, but I'm not going to include other types of these. This one's only going to be a one-off, besides Sarah Jane Adventures in Class. So I'm going to include that there, and I'll mention it when I get to the 7th Doctor. And also regeneration, post-regeneration, pre-regeneration, and bi-generation scenes will be added to the overall tally of each Doctor. So, for example, Planet of Spiders will be added to the 4th Doctors. Also, whilst I'm not counting it as part of the main list, I will be doing bonus lists for the War, Fugitive, Peter Cushing movie, the Schalke, and the 5 Curse of the Fatal Death Doctors. In which case I will also include the Darling movies, the Curse of the Fatal Death, and Scream of the Schalke for the movie Fatal Death and Schalke Doctors. I will not be counting multi-Doctor stories, appearances, or cameos outside of main eras or regeneration stories, except for the War and Fugitive Doctors, of course. I will also not be counting other characters played by actors playing the Doctor, such as Caecilius, or Commander Maxill, or the Curator. Actors playing alternate suggested versions of the Doctor, such as the Valiard, the Watcher, the Curator again. The other 3 webcasts, that including Sharda 2003, but also Real Time and Death Comes to Time, as all 3 well, okay, Sharda technically was in the Paul McGann era, but I'm not counting that as officially part of it, especially if I'm mentioning the original for Tom Baker, and the other 2 are with Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy respectively. They're outside those eras. Special editions, omnibus and movie versions in colour, and Tales from the TARDIS versions, other special or alternative versions of a story, the aforementioned individual parts of the 2 animated specials and Pond Life, although when I do talk about The Curse of the Fatal Death, I will talk about that in its 4-part version rather than the edited 2-part version for VHS. The shorter minisodes, shorts, skits, charity specials and prom minisodes, so only the minisodes that I mentioned earlier are being counted on the list, everything else is not counted. Cancelled and unmade stories besides Sharda, obviously. Other expanded media, kind of also obviously. And nothing where the Doctor does not appear besides Mission to the Unknown, such as Torchwood, K9 and Company, etc. The only exception being Mission to the Unknown, because that is an official Doctor Who episode. Now, I have made a list detailing every episode of every month of each year featuring a Doctor, and also bonuses and what is applied and applicable. But that is quite a long list that I will not be reading out on a video. It will take a lot of time. So what I'm going to do, if I remember, is to leave a link to the file on Google Drive so you can all go and have a look for yourselves, the calculations. So, without further ado, let's get started. First of all, we have the 1st Doctor, played by William Hartnell, and also the 2nd Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton. These 2 are the easiest 2 Doctors to determine the number of months they had at least one episode in across each year, or across all their years as the Doctor. And that is, of course, every month. Both these Doctors had an episode, at least one episode, each month of the year, at least in one of those years. So, first of all, 1964 is the year that every month had an episode. There was no other year, as far as I'm aware. At least I don't think there's a year. I think that's only 1964 has had an episode where every month of the year had an episode. Some years have come close, like these other 60s years, but in terms of every month of a calendar year having one episode at least, then 1964 is the only one that has it across the whole of that particular year. But, as well as 1964, the 1st Doctor has had at least one episode in every month across all the years, and so has the 2nd Doctor. The tallies for January 1964 to 66 for the 1st Doctor is 14 episodes from those 3 years. February it's 13, March it's 12, April is 13, May is 14, June is 12, July 10, August 5, September 8, October 11, November 10 and December 12 for all the years 1964 to 1966 up to October, and 1963 to 1965 for November and December. The 1st Doctor's tenure ran from the 23rd of November 1963 to the 29th of October 1966. So that's what we're going to be counting. And the same for the 2nd Doctor for the 29th of October 1966 to 21st of June 1966, including the 10th Planet Part 4. For January 1967 to 69, he had 12 episodes. February, also 12. March, 14. April, 13. May, 13. and June 8. 1967 and 68 only for July to September, with 11 in July, 4 in August, and 9 September. October has 9 episodes for 67 to 68, but adding the 10th Planet Part 4 gives it a 10th episode, airing in 1966, and then 66 to 68 for November and December, 13 and 14 respectively. Now, the reason these two have so many episodes is because Doctor Who was airing almost weekly from 1963 to 1969. It was airing... The first season was 42 episodes, the second season was 39, the third was 45, the fourth was 43, the fifth was 40, and the sixth was 44. I think I've got that correct. And so there was only a few weeks break between each episode, and they weren't always consistent on when they started and ended. For example, season 1 started in November, but season 2 started in October. Season 3, I believe, was September, maybe October. Maybe end of September. Season 6 started in August with the Dominators. And yeah, they would run for a good chunk of the year. And that's not including the fact that some stories were made in productions of a season, but then moved to the next season for airing. Moving on to Jon Pertwee's run as the Third Doctor from the 3rd of January 1970 to the 8th of June 1974. And we have the first big broadcast change in that the season goes down from trying to have an episode nearly every week with a couple weeks break between each season to cutting the episode length down to roughly 25 or 26 episodes, sometimes going down to 20, sometimes going up to 28 in the case of season 18. So from season 7 to season 21, there would be between 20 and 28 episodes of a season. And ergo, this now meant Doctor Who was on for roughly half the year, or quarter of a year in the case of the Peter Davison era, but we'll get onto that then. So when it comes to the Third Doctor, we mostly bunch up all his episodes into just half a year's run of stories, rather than across the year a bit more spectrum, but let's get into it. So 1970 to 74, in January we had 23 episodes, 20 in February, 23 in March, 23 in April, 22 in May, and 16 in June. There are no episodes of Doctor Who airing in July to November of those years, and there were 4 episodes in December of those years, although that's more 1972 to 73 to be precise. So as mentioned, yeah, we basically just throw up all of the Third Doctor's episodes in the first 6 months of the year, plus a couple of episodes that started in December, due to seasons 10 and 11. Season 10 technically started the second to last day of December 72, and then season 11, incredibly, for some reason, started a lot earlier than the other seasons, including season 12 for Tom Baker, where it would be like 2-3 weeks ahead of the new year rather than New Year week like the other seasons, including the episodes that would have aired at the end of December. And season 12 also starts at the end of December 74 as well, before the Tom Baker season pattern is changed for season 13. More on that next time. But yeah, it's really interesting seeing going from covering practically all of the year with Hartnell and Troughton to just half the year with Pertwee. And it means that the second half of the year, there is absolutely no Doctor Who whatsoever, apart from for 1 week in 1972 and 3 weeks in 1973, with the first episode of The Three Doctors and episodes 1 to 3 of The Time Warrior, respectively. But don't worry, autumn fans, there's going to be plenty of autumn stories to come. I cannot quite say the same about the summer, but in total, Jon Pertwee had episodes in 7 months of the year, mostly those first 6. With just a little bit of December. Moving on to Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor. Now, if we include Planet of the Spiders, Tom Baker has had an episode in every single month of the year, except July. He did not have an episode in any July between 1974 and 1981. His tenure being the 8th of June 74 to the 21st of March 81. Counting Planet of the Spiders, which is the regeneration scene at the end of Jon Pertwee's final episode, Tom Baker does appear in an episode in June. However, no other episodes of his tenure air in June. So if we're just doing his episodes, we're not counting the regeneration scenes, then he'd only be doing 10 months. But since we're counting the regeneration scenes, I'm taking it to 11. However, The total of the other months are as follows. In January, it is 29, and if we include the fact that Sharded Parts 1 and 2 were supposed to air that month, it would be 31. February, it is 24, counting Sharded Parts 3 to 6, which were supposed to air that month, it is 28. 15 for March, 5 for April, and 2 for May. So things are kind of winding down, and the reason for April and May snapping up a couple of episodes is that Season 12 aired the same way as Seasons 7 to 10 and 11, but that one started a couple weeks earlier than the others did. So Season 12 helps April and May get a couple of episodes in. I think there is one other April. Yeah, there is one other April later on as well, but it's mostly Season 12 that helps April and May get their episodes in. And the reason for that is because in August 1975, the broadcast pattern changed again. This time, autumn or late summer through to winter or early spring broadcast. Sometimes there'll be gaps between stories. There'll be a couple breaks, mainly over Christmas or the latter end of the autumn. But typically between end of August, start of September, and end of March, start of April, the seasons would run. If not weekly, then there would be at least maybe a couple weeks break in between them to spread them out a bit more. So Tom Baker's episodes do get a bit more spread out across the start and end of the years, but the middle is always kind of blank after 1975. I forgot to mention January to March was 75 to 81, but April and May were 75 to 80, and that's because Logopolis was a March episode. So we're going from 75 to 80 for August to November, and 74 to 80 for December. August, we had 2 episodes over that period. October 26, November 25, and December 18. Which looks quite small considering it had an extra episode with 1974. But again, as mentioned, the breaks would usually come over Christmas. Sometimes, like season 14, they would even take out the back end of autumn and come back in New Year's week or shortly after the New Year. Other times, seasons would just go straight through, like season 16, for example, just went through. And if season 17 had that gap, it would be very awkward. But then again, maybe it might have actually helped Shada get broadcast. It might have been finished in time. You know, maybe season 17 should have been one of the ones that had the break. After all, it might have actually helped. It is also worth noting that there was no episode aired from July to November 1974, just like how there wasn't any in July to December 1969. So we are going to have those breaks saying where there are no episodes of Doctor Who airing in this time period. And we've got another case where there was no episodes from April to December 1981. K9 and Company does not count, sorry. But now we jump into Peter Davison's era, with the 5th Doctor airing from the 21st of March 1981 to the 16th of March 1984, nearly 3 years exactly. But as I mentioned, no episodes from July to December 81, so we're starting with January 1982 and throwing in Logopolis Part 4 when we get to March. Another massive broadcast change with Peter Davison's Doctor. This time we're going back to starting roughly around New Year or just after New Year, so January starting. But secondly, we're also now doing twice weekly episodes for a quarter of the year. So for January, February, and March of these next 3 years, we have episodes. So that's great to bump up episodes for those months, but when it comes to every other month, apart from one, they're all going to miss out. That other month being November, by the way, because of the 5 Doctors. So yeah, it's this was when they decided to put Doctor Who on twice weekly on weeknights, Monday and Tuesday for season 19, Tuesday and Wednesday for season 20, apart from Arc Infinity Part 1, which was Monday because I think they needed the Tuesday for something else. And season 21 was Thursdays and Fridays, except for 2 Wednesdays for Resurrection of the Daleks in February, I think it was. Yeah, two Wednesdays in February so they could cover the Winter Olympics. So Resurrection of the Daleks was originally a 4-parter with the usual 25-minute length, but it was then edited into 2 45-minute length episodes, and those are the ones that ended up being broadcast. They're the official length episodes of the story. And after they did that, they kind of got the idea to then do that time length 4 episodes starting from the next season, season 22, which is Although maybe it wasn't because of this, but they certainly got the idea to do season 22's episodes at that length around the same time. So maybe it was just very successful that made them decide to go forward with that decision. It is also worth noting the Five Doctors also aired on a Friday, so no Peter Davison episode aired on a Saturday or Sunday, and by this point in time, I don't think any episode has aired on a Sunday. Every episode from Hartnell to Tom Baker were Saturdays, and every episode for Peter Davison is any day but Saturday or Sunday. In fact, I don't think we get any Sunday episodes until David Tennant comes in with the Christmas Invasion, and that's because it was Christmas Day. But we'll get onto Sundays at a later point. We're sticking with weekdays and Saturdays for now. So in the years 1982 to 84, there were 24 episodes in January, 22 in February, and 22 in March. 23 if including Logopolis Part 4, which aired in March 1981. More episodes did air in March 1984, though. However, those will be counted with the next Doctor, because that was his first story. And we all know what that one is, don't we? We'll get on to that when we get to Colin Baker. Also, November had one episode in the 1982 to 83 time frame, which is the aforementioned The Five Doctors. By the way, we're counting its original broadcast version. I know there was a 4-part repeat version later. We're not counting that, and those episodes are not counted as like individual episode parts, like, say, Warriors of the Deep's 4 episodes are like, these are episodes that, and that. But Five Doctors ones, that's an alternate version of the story, but the 90-minute version is the main one. Same with how the special edition and the 40th anniversary edition are alternate versions of that story. Which means Peter Davison only had 4 months of the year airing his episodes across 1981 to 84. But those months, except November, are probably the most episodes in a particular month. There's like roughly twice as many episodes in these 3 months compared to the William Hartnell to Tom Baker years, when those were airing an episode a week. These ones were airing 2 episodes a week, apart from for Resurrection of the Dalek's Head. But that one, you got double length episodes those 2 weeks, so it sort of technically counts. And the same sort of goes the same for Colin Baker's first story when we get to him, but we'll get onto that. So I guess you benefit from you get to have 2 episodes a week, but on the downside is they only air for 3 months of the year. But the next Doctor has 2 big broadcast changes, and that is Colin Baker's 6th Doctor. Now, Colin Baker, first of all, as mentioned, he has the last story of season 21, so he adds a few extra episodes to March 1984 as a whole. So March 1984 gains an extra 4 episodes from him on top of the existing 6 episodes that it had. So March actually had 10 episodes in 1964. So the 6th Doctor's run was from the 16th of March 1984 to the 6th of December 1986. So I've just mentioned 1984. When we come to, there'll be no episodes from April to December 84. When we come to 1985, the series has the first of the 2 big broadcast changes for Colin's Doctor, and that is the fact that now we're back to Saturdays, but the episodes are now twice as long. There's going to be 13 45-minute episodes in the vein of Resurrection of the Daleks. But now it's every story. So instead of 26 episodes of 25 minutes, it's 13 45-minute episodes. So the episode doubled up. It's 2-parters or 3-parters, but they're longer as opposed to 4 to 6 parts of the usual length. And therefore, that means January to March are also going to be the months covered in season 22, because like when Peter Davison's episodes, when there was twice a week, this time you get that equivalent but edited into a single episode, like Resurrection of the Daleks. Sorry for any noises you'll hear outside. We're having an extension works. That's a cement mixer. So the winter and spring months are covered with season 22. However, during season 22's airing, Doctor Who was announced to be going on an 18-month hiatus. Initially supposed to be cancelled, but then after fan backlash and audience backlash, the BBC backtracked and the series was put on an 18-month hiatus. So when Doctor Who came back for season 23 in 1986, it had moved to the autumn slot, September to December. But some more changes were made to the broadcast. Instead of being 13 45-minute episodes like season 22 and the originally planned season 23, or 20 to 28 25-minute episodes like season 7 to 21, the series was now going to be 14 25-minute episodes, meaning season 23 needed a complete overhaul, and thus we got The Trial of a Time Lord. So Colin Baker's era's got two major broadcast changes on top of inheriting Peter Davison's one for the first story. Boy, the series is still on Saturdays for season 23, but whilst the episode format remains the same, going into Sylvester McCoy, it will change days. More on that next time. So overall, in Colin Baker's run, there were 4 episodes in January 1985 to 86, 4 episodes in February of those years, and 9 episodes in March 1984 to 86, 10 if including The Caves of Androzani, Part 4. There are no Doctor Who episodes airing in April to August 1984 to 86. We come back in September, and for September to December, these are 1984 to 86. So 4 episodes for September, 4 episodes for October, 5 episodes for November, and 1 episode for December throughout the whole of those 3 years. Meaning the 6th Doctor had at least 1 episode in the months of January, February, March, September, October, November, and December between the 16th of March 1984 and the 6th of December 1986. So we had at least 1 episode in 7 months of a calendar year in those 3 years. April through to August were the months that were skipped. As mentioned, 1985 season 22 was the one more at the front of the year, just like it had been with Peter Davison's era, whilst the back of the year, the autumn for September to December, would be where season 23 aired, and this is going to be where we're going to be sticking with for Sylvester McCoy. But first, another break of episodes. There were no episodes of Doctor Who airing in January to August 1987. We pick back up with September. Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor, was the 7th Doctor for the 7th of September 1987 to the 6th December 1989, before the series was cancelled, although he would remain the incumbent Doctor until the airing of the 1996 TV movie starring Paul McGann. So we'll get back onto that and Wilderness Years bits in a moment, but for the main era, let's get started. So as well as no episodes airing in January to August 87, there is also no episodes airing in February to August 1988 or 89 either, and no episodes airing in January 88. So getting started, when Doctor Who comes back for season 24 in 1987, this time they have moved from Saturdays to Mondays, because the BBC wanted it to be up against Coronation Street so that it would not get as many views, so they could have an excuse to cancel the show. And for the following 2 seasons, it would be on Wednesdays, and it really did it in on the 26th season in 1989. That was really hard on it. The other 2 didn't fare so well, but the last season of Classic Who was the lowest viewed series. I want to say ever, but I know a lot of people would cite a lot of episodes since 2017 of having low overnight viewing figures. The thing about the episodes from 2017 onwards that got those low viewing figures is that that's just the overnight, not taking into account iPlayer and catch up. Because as well as overnights, we got the 7-day catch up, the 28-day catch up, and for seasons 1 and 2 of Bad Wolf, the pre-broadcast iPlayer viewing figures. Plus maybe also the amount of devices that episodes are being watched, and also if they're being recorded, maybe it'll count those as well. Well, it's 1989, it was just broadcast episode. Video recording doesn't count. Yeah, so that's why the viewing figures were so low there. And despite similar low overnight viewing figures it was initially Live the Land that was considered the lowest viewing figures since 1989 for overnights. So since 2017, but episodes from 2017 they've got the catch-ups, and also now the pre-episode broadcasts for season 1 and 2 of Bad Wolf. So those episodes' viewing figures will be higher than season 26 of Classic Who. So these are some of the lowest viewing figures of the entire show with Sylvester McCoy's run, and that's exactly what the BBC wanted. They wanted the excuse to cancel it. Grr. And unlike Peter Davison's era, where it was actually successful on the weekday nights. McCoy's run, it was a power move just to try and get the series cancelled. And after 3 seasons, the BBC, 4 seasons if you count Trial of a Time Lord, the BBC got what they wanted. There's no way they'd ever do that nowadays, right? The series is too much of a big moneymaker. If only the BBC had realised that in 1989. Oh well, we have to stick with what we've got, and that's 3 seasons of Sylvester McCoy. So at least the last 2 of those were really brilliant seasons, after all. Am I right? So, the months of the year that the 7th Doctor stories aired. First of all, we do have 1 episode that aired in January 1989. So January does get a 1 episode placement on this list, that being Greatest Show in the Galaxy Part 4. And then February to August, there are no episodes, as well as 1987, there's no episodes airing in these months in 89 or 88. We now come to September. So for the years 1987 to 89, September had 8 episodes, October had 12, November 15, and December 6. Now, the reason October and November's are higher than September and December's is because season 25 started in October rather than September, like seasons 24 and 26. That's why it goes into January 1989 for a week. And that's because I believe it was also Olympics, Summer Olympics for 88, that would be still being shown in September, so the season was delayed a month to October. And also Silver Nemesis was supposed to be the season finale and air around the 25th anniversary. Remembrance opening the season, so you got bookended anniversary stories. Greatest Show in the Galaxy was also supposed to come sooner, but that one had a lot of production difficulties, and I think it's either that or the change in broadcast for Remembrance starting in October is why Greatest Show ended up being last in the broadcast, even though it's supposed to be second. It was supposed to follow the same pattern as season 24, 2 4-parters and then 2 3-parters, but instead they had the 4-parters as the bookends. Season 26 would also change its format, as it would be 4-3-4-3, though I believe Curse of Fenric was also supposed to start that season, and then they moved it to be 3rd in the lineup. So again, maybe they were planning on it being 4-4-3-3. To be honest, I think Curse of Fate of F actually serves really well as a finale. If it wasn't for Survival, I would say it should have been the season finale. I also mentioned I was counting Dimensions in Time on this list, and that had 2 episodes broadcast in November 1993. So we add a bonus 2 episodes to November's tally if we go to 1993, which means that November was already the month that had the most 7th Doctor episodes anyway, with 15. It's now got 17 if we count Dimensions in Time. Hello, Nick from the future again. I mentioned I was going to mention the crossover episode of Search Out Science that featured the 7th Doctor, Ace and K9, called Search Out Space. This episode aired in November 1990, so that means the total of episodes that aired in November for the 7th Doctor's era, if we extend the date range from 1987 to 1990 as opposed to 1987 to 89, then the 7th Doctor had 16 episodes air in November between 1987 and 1990. So that's the only episode of Doctor Who that aired in 1990, even though the show had been cancelled by that point. But it was to show that the 7th Doctor was still the incumbent incarnation, and they were still doing stuff with him even after the final episode had aired. I'm going to mention later that apart from Dimensions in Time, episodes 1 and 2 in November 1993, there was no episode aired in January 1990 through to April 1996. So as well as Dimensions in Time, this episode is also being counted. So no episode of Doctor Who aired between January and October 1990, December 1990 to October 1993, and December 1993 to April 1996, and then we'll jump back in with the TV movie in May 1996. More on that in the Paul McGann 8th Doctor bit. So the 7th Doctor still has an episode in 6 of the 12 months of the year, counting the TV movie for May, and the other months being January, September, October, November, and December, with Search Out Science and Dimensions in Time parts 1 and 2 adding to the November tally. So I guess with Dimensions in Time, the November tally is 12 if it's 1987 to 93. Though my addition of Search Out Science that I'm adding now, later to earlier, doesn't contradict that total of months the 7th Doctor has appeared, nor his placement in the ranking later of all of the Doctors, the months of the year that they all appear in. So this doesn't contradict any of those. It just adds an extra one for November in 1990. So I will hand myself back over to my earlier self. Now we come to May 1996, and I'm going to stop talking about the 7th Doctor here because we're going to go to the 8th Doctor momentarily. But it is worth noting that May 1996 adds one more month to the 7th Doctor's tally, which is a total of 6 months, only 5 for his main broadcast era, and even including Dimensions in Time. So between the 7th of September 1987 and pick your TV movie broadcast date here, May 1996, the 7th Doctor had at least one episode in 6 months, or in 6 of the 12 months of the years 1987 to 1996. Except 1990 to 92 and 1994 to 95, when there was no episode of Doctor Who. Okay, on to the 8th Doctor. This one's dead easy. He had one episode in May 1996. The TV movie aired on the 12th of May 1996 in Canada, 2 days later on the 14th in the United States, and a further 13 days till it aired in the UK on the 27th of May. Now, since I'm not counting the Shada webcast, this and Night of the Doctor are the only two 8th Doctor stories I will be counting. Since the Night of the Doctor comes during the 11th Doctor's run, the TV movie is the only 8th Doctor episode to air between 12th of May, that's the earliest broadcast of the episode, 12th of May 1996 to the 26th of March 2005, an important date for Doctor Who that we will be getting to with the 9th Doctor. So in the May 1996 to March 2005 period, there is only the one episode of Doctor Who that airs. So that means that one episode aired in just 1 month, being May for 1996. However, if I include The Night of the Doctor, which aired in November 2013, that means the 8th Doctor's had at least one story in 2 months of the years 1996 and 2013 together. So he's had up to 2 months. So yeah, the 8th Doctor's had two months with an episode each, but nearly 20 years apart. A big 17-year gap, and 9 of those years was his own tenure. I suppose if Shada was counted, that would probably be summer, I think that was. Summer to early autumn 2003. But I'm not counting the Shada webcast. It was definitely before Scream the Shauka, which was November, December. But I'm not counting Shada webcast, so it's just the 2 months for the TV movie in 1996 and Night of the Doctor in 2013. So there would be no episode airing in June 1996 through to February 2005. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back and we're bigger than ever. Christopher Eccleston is the 9th Doctor, and the series returns on the 26th of March 2005. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Unfortunately, Christopher Eccleston would only do one series as the Doctor, so we're only going to be looking at 1 year for his episode broadcasts. But we're back to 13 45-minute episodes, just like season 22, so we're going to be doing a quarter of the year. But we're moving it forward to the spring instead of doing it in the winter. And this is going to be how things are going to stick around until Series 5 in the first half of Series 6. So things are going to stay a bit consistent from now on until, at the very least, Series 6 comes to its halfway point. So the 9th Doctor's run was the 26th of March to 18th of June 2005. So in that period, he had one episode in March, 5 episodes in April, 4 episodes in May, and 3 episodes in June of that year, meaning he had one episode in at least 4 months of that 1 year, 2005. Meaning that you actually had 3 Doctors as the incumbent incarnation that year. Don't think that's ever happened before. We've already mentioned the 8th Doctor, we've just done the 9th Doctor, time to move into David Tennant. Yep, 10th Doctor time. And David Tennant's first run as the Doctor before coming back as the 14th Doctor later on. Now, David Tennant makes his first appearance in The Parting of the Ways on the 18th of June 2005, and his tenure as the 10th Doctor runs until the 1st of January 2010. And as mentioned, counting the 2 children's specials and the 2 animated stories in their entirety on this list as well. So there will be a few extra points where they've had an episode that wasn't their usual episode. So starting off with January 2006 to 10, there was one episode, The End of Time Part 2. It's funny that we start the 10th Doctor's run with his last episode. There are no episodes of Doctor Who airing in February 2006 to 9. In March 2006 to 9, there is one episode, that being Smith and Jones in 2007. April 2006 to 9 sees 12 episodes. May 2006 to 9 sees 11, and June 2006 to 9 has 14, 15 if we include the Parting of the Ways from 2005. We'll stick to 2006 to 9 for up to October, with July having 3, no episodes in August or September, and no Doctor Who episodes in October, but the 10th Doctor does appear, and I'm also, like I mentioned, I'm counting this as well, the Sarah Jane Adventures, episodes 5 and 6 of Series 3, The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. So we do get 2 episodes of the 10th Doctor in October 2009. By the way, at this point, we have had The Infinite Quest as well. That was an episode for June. That's why June has so many episodes. And that's not even including Parting the Ways, which adds one more to that. If I was including Infinite Quest or Parting the Ways, June would be 13. But adding Infinite Quest would take it to 14. And be glad I'm not including the 13-part version, otherwise it'd be even more. And same for April and May. Now, November, I mentioned I was including the Children in Need specials. So 2005 to 9, there are 3 episodes in November. Again, I'm not including the individual part version of Dreamland, the 6-part version. I'm doing the full-length story. So that's going to be a December episode, not an extra 6 for November. And speak of December, as well as Dreamland, we've got a couple Christmas specials, which takes the tally to 6 from 2005 to 9. And that means the 10th Doctor, if we include the charity specials, if we include the animated episodes, not that it really changes much of the number anyway for those two, and if we include the Sarah Jane Adventures, we take the 10th Doctor's total appearances across June 2005 to January 2010 to 9 of the 12 months of those years. The only months he's not in it are February, August, and September, plus also October for Doctor Who, but he is in the Sarah Jane Adventures that month. So he only skips 3 months of the year between his debut and his regeneration. Wow, 9 months of the year, that's awesome. Can we top it? Can we get back to the levels of William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, or Tom Baker? Well, we're going to sure as hell try, because the next Doctor to come in is Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor. His tenure lasts from the 1st of January 2010 to the 25th December 2013, almost exactly 4 years. And in those 4 years, let's jump right into it. So first of all, Matt Smith's 11th Doctor doesn't actually have an episode that aired in January of his run, but he does appear at the end of Time Part 2 in January 2010. This episode counts, but no other episode of the Matt Smith era airs in January, so just the one episode in January 2010. There are no Doctor Who episodes airing in February 2010 to 13. However, when we jump into March, we now have our tally. So 2010 to 13, there are 3 episodes in March. This includes the charity specials Space and Time. In April 2010 to 13, there were 10 episodes. In May 2010 to 13, there was 12. And there was 5 in June 2010 to 13. There were no episodes airing in July 2010 to 13. In August 2010 to 13, there is 1 episode. September 2010 to 13, there is 10. And October 2010 to 13, there is 1 episode of Doctor Who. And, like his predecessor, the 11th Doctor turns up in a pair of Sarah Jane Adventures episodes this year. This time, Series 4, episodes 5 and 6. The Death of the Doctor. Was it just Death of the Doctor? Both episodes airing in October 2010, making the total of 11th Doctor episodes in October 2010 to 13, 3. In November 2010 to 13, there are 2 episodes, not counting The Night of the Doctor here, because that one is an 8th Doctor one, but that also aired in this time. And December 2010 to 13, there was just the 4 Christmas specials. So if we count The End of Time Part 2, we have an episode with the 11th Doctor every month of the year, except February and July. 10 months of at least one of these 4 years, from 2010 to 13, we have 11th Doctor episodes or appearances, including charity specials like Space and Time, The Great Detective, which was one of the November ones, along with Day of the Doctor, and the Sarah Jane Adventures. I'm not counting the Duster Investigates or Battle Demons Run 2 days later Minnesota's, because those they don't feature the Doctor in it. If they did, then I'd probably count them. By the way, Pond Life, the 5-part version, aired in August, but I'm counting the full-length single-part version, so that's one of the September ones. So, it appears that the 11th Doctor has the most number of months in a calendar year where he's had at least one episode or appearance in a month during his tenure. But, whilst he's able to beat David Tennant, there is another Doctor who also gets fairly very close. I think he equals David Tennant, and both are close to Matt Smith. So we got one more Doctor who comes close to Matt Smith and Tom Baker in the positions. No one's going to beat William Hartnell or Patrick Troughton. You'd have to have a 13-month to do that. So the question is who can get the next highest, and currently it's Tom Baker, then Matt Smith, and then David Tennant. And now the next Doctor is going to come over to David Tennant and say, bring it. That's right. Next up, it's the 12th Doctor, whose run is the 25th December 2013 to 25th December 2017, making him the only Doctor to start and end on the exact same day, but a different year. So he's got exactly 4 years down. As mentioned, Matt Smith was a week off from that. So, the 12th Doctor. Ooh. First of all, there was no episodes of Doctor Who airing from January to July 2014. The first 12th Doctor episode was in August 2014, following the regeneration. But there's also no Doctor Who episode airing in January to March 2015 to 17 either. So the first month of the year you get an episode of the 12th Doctor is April. So for 2015 to 17, there are 3 episodes in April, 4 in May, 4 in June, and 1 in July. And then we come to August, which is going to be 2014 to 17 from here to December. And therefore we have 2 in August, 6 in September, 10 in October, 6 in November, and 5 in December, 6 when including the time of the Doctor. So the reason for the inclusion of the spring into summer months is Series 10. Now, Series 1 to 5, as mentioned earlier, that was spring, early summer broadcast, March or April through to June or July, via May. That was Series 1 to 5 in 2005 to 8 and 10. And then 2011, the first half of Series 6 was also in that time slot. They moved to autumn, to late summer to autumn for the second half of Series 6. Series 7 Part 1 was September only 2012. And then the second half was spring, March to May of 13. And then Series 8 and Series 9 would be in the autumn slot, end of August or in September through to start of November or start of December. Series 10 goes back to the original spring into summer broadcast with April to July of 2017. So that's why you got a couple of episodes April to July. August had some, and then September to December had quite a few, especially October. That one's the month with the most number of episodes in the 12th Doctor's run. In total, like the 10th Doctor, the 12th Doctor has at least 1 episode in 9 of the 12 months of the year between 2014 and 2017. The only ones that he does not appear in are January, February, or March. Not even in minisodes or charity specials. They kind of died down after Matt Smith doing those. He does have a cameo in a Children in Need sketch about Pudsey in 2016, but I'm not counting that. It is also worth noting 2016 is the first year since the series came back where there was just the single episode. There was like every other year had a season or part of a season. 2012 up to that point had 6 episodes. Hello, Nick in the future jumping in here. Just to say that I didn't include the Doctor's meditation when initially doing this video, but now including it in. So September's tally now actually goes up to 7 episodes from 6. with the inclusion of the Doctor's Meditation, as that also came out in September 2015, giving that month 3 episodes instead of just 2. Again, the prologue doesn't count, so I'm not including that here, although the 12th Doctor does appear in that, but just counting the Doctor's Meditation of the 2. Anyway, back to me to continue with the video. 7 with Pond Life, 8 with Great Detective, but for the main series it was just 6 episodes for that year. And 2013 would have 10 plus the minisodes and bonuses, whilst all the others were between 13 and 15 in 2010's case. 2010 was probably the most number of episodes we've had in a year. In fact, it was probably the most number of episodes we have in a year since 1984, come to think of it, because Colin and Sylvester's runs were 13 and 14 episodes each. So 2010 was the year with the most number of episodes in that year since 1984. And that's not even counting the adventure games or minisodes and Sarah Jane Adventures and stuff. But now we come to 2016, which is the least number of episodes of Doctor Who since 2004. To quote Billy Tracy from 5 Who fans, when there was no Doctor Who, and sadly it would not be the last gap year. However, the 12th Doctor did appear in the first episode of Class, For Tonight We Might Die, in October 2016, which adds an extra episode to his October tally. On to Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor now. And first of all, there are no episodes of Doctor Who airing in January to September 2018. But Jodie Whittaker does start her tenure on the 25th of December 2017 with her appearance in Twice Upon a Time, and her tenure runs until the 22nd of October 2022. So, starting off in January, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor is probably got the most January episodes of the revival, and probably the most since Colin, I think, since Colin Baker, maybe even Peter Davison, actually. Because Jodie has 8 episodes in January 2019 to 22. And that's because the 10th, 11th and 12th Doctors, and also the 15th Doctor when we get to them, had all those Christmas specials that added to the December tally. Jodie's got the New Year specials, which is going to add to the January tally. Also, Series 12 had 5 episodes, including the first one on New Year's Day in January 2020. So that also helps add her tally quite up significantly over the other months of the year. Well, except one, which it's tied with. It's also worth noting that Jodie's Doctor is the only Doctor to have episodes air in the month of February in the revival. No Doctor since Colin Baker has had a month air in the month of February besides Jodie. And that total is 4 episodes. It's also worth noting, apart from the 3 New Year specials and Spyfall Part 1, which all air on New Year's Day, which are Tuesday for Resolution, Wednesday for Spyfall Part 1, Friday for Revolution of the Daleks, and Saturday for Eve of the Daleks. Besides those 4 episodes, all of her episodes are on Sundays, including the other 2 specials, which is the biggest change to the broadcast of the series for the revival, where all the episodes of the series, plus some of the Christmas specials and some of the other specials, aired on Saturdays. The other Christmas specials and the Waters of Mars would air on other days. Waters of Mars was a Sunday, and Christmas specials ranged from whichever day of the week the day just happened to land on. Same with Ncuti's Doctor. And same here for the New Year's episodes. The animated stories' full-length versions were also Saturdays. It is worth noting that if Series 12, besides Spyfall Part 1, aired on Saturdays, then we'd actually get one more episode in February, which would have aired on February 29th. And I believe that would have been the first episode since Marco Polo, Part 2, I believe. Yeah, the Daleks Part 7 was on the first, and then you've got Edge of Destruction, which is a 2-parter. So Marco Polo Part 2 in 1964. But they added it on Sundays, so you get an episode in March instead. And then April 2019 to 22, you also get 1 episode, that being Legend of the Sea Devils. That means there are no episodes of Doctor Who airing in May through to September 2019 to 22. But now we pick up with 2018 joining the list. So for a month we do 2018 to 22, and the total number of episodes in that period is 6. October 2022 is the last month for the 13th Doctor, so November and December will be 2018 to 21. For November it's 8 episodes, and December it's 4 if you count Twice Upon a Time in 2017. So, the 13th Doctor appears in 7 of the 12 months of the year, in between 2018 and 2022. Appearing in January February, March, April, October, November, and December. So Jodie's kind of like with Colin Baker. It's kind of half and half depending on the season you're talking with. Series 11 and Series 13 are in the back half of the year, as is Power the Doctor. So you've got those episodes in the autumn and winter. But Series 12 and the New Year specials are in that first 3 months of the year with January to March. And you add one more episode in April for the Easter special. So yeah, we got, again, it's like 50-50 depending, or nearly, well, actually there's one more month extra actually, and that goes for Colin as well. It's just having to be September for him. So you've got that kind of break in the middle for the summer and the later spring months, and September in this case as well. We're almost done. We've got the next easiest Doctor after Paul McGann, even easier than Christopher Eccleston, because next up is the 14th Doctor, played by David Tennant again. Now, the 14th Doctor's tenure was between the 22nd of October 2022 and the 9th of December 2023, but there was no Doctor Who between November 2022 and October 2023. The first episode to actually broadcast in the 14th Doctor's era after Power the Doctor technically was Destination Skaro. But if you don't count that, then it's the Star Beast. But I will be counting it, so I'm saying that is the first one. So the 14th Doctor appears in one single episode in October 2022, with his appearance in The Power of the Doctor. Otherwise, no 14th Doctor episodes in October 22 or 23. In November 2023, we get 2 episodes, and December 2023, we get 2 episodes. Yeah, I told you it was going to be easy. It's 5 episodes, including Power of the Doctor. Yeah, it's just the 360th anniversary specials, Destination Skaro, and Power of the Doctor. That's it. Which means the 14th Doctor only appears in 3 of 12 months of the calendar year. Of 2022 to 23. Yeah, I told you it was going to be the second easiest one. Moving on to Ncuti Gatwa, the 15th Doctor, which we do have a complete timeline now because of what happened in the latest episode. So, the 15th Doctor, his tenure was the 9th of December 2023 to the 31st of May 2025. We're bringing it up to date, people. So, first of all, there are no Doctor Who episodes airing in January to March 2024 to 25, and nor was there in July to November 2024. So we're focusing again on the spring months and Christmas. So April 2024 to 5 had 3 episodes, May had 9, and June had 4. And December 2023 to 24 had 2, 3 including the giggle. And at time of recording, the Reality War, which aired on the 31st of May 2025, is the latest episode. Plus, we don't really know when the series is going to come back. If it's going to come back, I mean, it will come back hopefully, but we don't know when yet. So we're not going to get another episode this year. So we're fine putting the brakes on there and saying there is yet to be an episode air since May 2025. So the 15th Doctor's era, it wasn't even 18 months. It was like 17 and a half months, starting from the giggle. It was like maybe a week and a bit off from being 18 months if we started from there. In that 17 to 18 month period, he had at least 1 episode in 4 of the months of 2023 to 25. Those being April, May, June, and December. With May getting the highest number of episodes, as Season 1 started in May and went into June. Season 2 started in April and finished just before May, transitioned into June, plus the 2 Christmas specials and the giggle. So, yeah, and the 15th Doctor won't get the chance to do more episodes in those months or other months because he's gone now. That's it. That's it for Ncuti. Another fairly easy one. The 16th Doctor. As mentioned, there has not been any Doctor Who episode there since May 2025, and as of recording in September 2025, May 2025 is the only month we have seen the 16th Doctor, or the Billie Piper Doctor, or whatever she gets called, or whatever character she's playing if she isn't the Doctor. If she is indeed the Doctor, currently May 2025 is the only month they've appeared in, with their appearance at the end of the Reality War. So, currently, if Billie Piper is the 16th Doctor, she's currently got the single month down in her name for her post-regeneration scene, or the ending of the regeneration scene, really. But when we pick up with the 16th Doctor next time, not sure when it's going to be. Maybe, hopefully, we'll find out after War Between the Land and the Sea airs. I'm not expecting her to pop up. At best, we might get Ncuti or maybe David Tennant's 14th Doctor. But there's no guarantee. It's very unlikely any of them are going to turn up. And if it was any besides Ncuti or Billy, I probably wouldn't count it. Anyway, it'd be more like if the 7th Doctor turned up in the Sarah Jane Adventures Series 6. That was that's a guest appearance, but out of their tenure. So, let's do a ranking of which Doctors had the most number of months in the year. Woo! Okay, so coming in at number 9, it's the 8th Doctor, only having episodes in 2 months of a year. But to be fair, he only had 1 episode and a minisode, so that kind of makes sense. Coming in 8th, not doing much better, is the 14th Doctor with 3 months. Counting the post-regeneration scene in Power of the Doctor, he ends up getting 3 months, being the last 3 months of the year, to be precise. Otherwise, he only has episodes in the last 2. Doing a bit better, coming in 7th, is joint freeway between the 5th, 9th and 14th Doctors with 4 months each. The 5th Doctor was nice and cosy in the first quarter of the year, and with twice weekly episodes, he was able to double the number of those particular months over Doctors who would be having them weekly over half a year or even a quarter of the year's time frame. The 9th Doctor, meanwhile, set the precedent of the new series' episode broadcasts up to the early 2010s, so the first couple of years are following a similar pattern to the 9th Doctor's episode broadcasts. The 15th Doctor sort of kind of takes inspiration from that as well, but with a lower episode count. However, on a personal level, May being my birth month, I am happy to say that Ncuti's best month in terms of episodes was May, over 2024 to 25. Coming in 6th place with 6 months is the 7th Doctor. If it wasn't for the TV movie, he would be in a 4-way with the previous 3 Doctors mentioned. But the TV movie gives him a little bit boost to go up a spot, even if it's for 1 night only. It also helps for him and Paul McGann that they have the longest tenures, even when they're not on TV, though Tom Baker's still is if you're just going by the TV episodes without gaps. Coming in 5th is another 3-way between the 3rd, 6th and 13th Doctors with 7 months each. Again, the 3rd Doctor was nice and snug and cosy in the first half of the year, January to June, a little bit in December for some years, but overall very nice and snug in that first half of the year. Meanwhile, the 6th and 13th Doctors had episodes kind of spread across parts of the year depending on which season aired where. So one season would be early on in the year, one season would be later on in the year, or 2 seasons in Jodie's case. With a gap around the summer, maybe also a bit of the spring or autumn as well, but it was primarily the summer that was skipped for them. But yeah, season 22 and series 12 took that winter spot, those winter months, early spring, plus 1 Easter special, and then season 23 and series 11 and 13 would take the autumn spots. In fact, apart from swapping September with April, Jodie's run of months are almost identical to Colin's. Coming in 4th is the 10th and 12th Doctors with 9 months each. And if I was going by actors, I would also include David Tennant here for both his Doctors, because even though the 10th Doctor has the Sarah Jane Adventures appearance count for October, whereas the 14th Doctor being in the Power of the Doctor, that would add October to the list anyway, so that David Tennant still has appearances in October. It just means Paul McGann would go up to 8th place instead of 9 if I was going by actor. And I suppose it would be David Tennant, Peter Capaldi and David Tennant in this spot. Capaldi's run, also like with Colin and Jodie, depended on the series. Most of his episodes were later on in the year, but there was a couple in the spring and early summer as well. And like with Matt Smith, he liked having a bit of August in there, which is great because after February, August is probably the least represented month of the new series. Though that being said, apart from the Doctor Falls, we didn't really have any July episodes after Journey's End, so maybe that one is now is also a underrepresented month. Maybe if Ncuti's era did have 10 episodes in season 1, we might have gotten another July episode. Coming in 3rd is the 11th Doctor, who's the revival Doctor with the most number of months, and that is 10 months, including the charity specials, which helped secure that March position. And again, this is starting off with following from the Eccleston Tennant series broadcasting runs to start with, and then doing the split series, and then kind of just spacing them out a bit, series 7 especially. So, which kind of inspires the... Whilst Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker's episodes aren't really spaced out across the season, the episodes do seem to air in different spots. Coming in second, to no surprise to anybody, is the Fourth Doctor, including his post-regeneration scene in Planet of the Spiders. We come to 11 months. Every month apart from July, meaning there was at least one episode in the other months of the year between 1974 and 1981 that featured a Tom Baker episode / appearance. But even Tom Baker couldn't quite reach the same heights as the first two Doctors. The first and second Doctors joint first place with having an episode every single month of their respective years. Not every single month in their respective years, across their respective years. At least one episode in a month in a year in their tenure. So there we go, that's the list. So you can be guaranteed that if you're doing your watching every single episode of Doctor Who on the date broadcast watch-alongs, you can be guaranteed that at least one First Doctor and one Second Doctor episode will appear in each month of the year. Fourth Doctor, same except for June and July, unless you watch Planet of the Spiders Part 6, in which case technically he's in that. And then in Matt Smith's 11th Doctor, you get 10 months of the year. I am cheating a little bit by adding the charity specials, the Minnesotes, and the animated stories. But I do kind of count those. And I know people would want me to count some of them, like Dimensions in Time, for example. And just for a little bit of fun, let's talk about the War Fugitive, Movie, Fatal Death, and Schalke Doctors. Huzzah! So the War Doctor appears in The Name of the Doctor, which airs in May 2013, and also The Night of the Doctor and The Day of the Doctor, which aired in November 2013, meaning he had at least one episode in the months of May and November 2013. So that's only 2 months of the year, but he was a guest Doctor. He does have a flashback cameo in Listen in September 2014, but that's footage from Day of the Doctor, so that's not counted. Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor appears in 5 stories on TV, her first appearance being in Fugitive of the Doctor in January 2020, and her latest in The Story and the Engine in May 2025. So she has an appearance in January 2020, an appearance in March 2020, an appearance in May 2025, an appearance in October 2022, and an appearance in November 2021. Those being Fugitive of the Jadoon, The Timeless Children, The Story and the Engine, The Power of the Doctor, and Flux Chapter 3 Once Upon a Time, respectively. Meaning she appears in the months of January, March, May, October, November in the years 2020 to 22 and 2025. So she gets an episode in 5 months of a 12-month year. Which actually, if I was putting her alongside the other Doctors, means she would have more... she's appeared in more months, even if it's just one episode, or cameos even. She's appeared in more months since the 8th, 14th, 5th, 9th, and 15th Doctors. And the War Doctor equaling with the 8th Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor even seems to have more episodes than the 8th Doctor as well, come to think of it. And she's equal with 14 on that level. And I think the War Doctor only has 3 episodes as well, so he's got less than 14. Well, less if I count Power of the Doctor and Destination Scarrow. The Peter Cushing movie Doctor, meanwhile, appeared in 1 film in August 1965 and 1 film in August 1966, meaning he appeared in 2 consecutive Augusts in 1965 to 66, which was a great thing to do because August 65 and 66 didn't really have any episodes those years. It is just the 1 month of the year though, so Cushing does sadly then go down to the bottom of the list, joined by the 5 Fatal Death Doctors, although they did have 4 episodes of The Curse of the Fatal Death air in March 1999. And again, as mentioned, I am counting it as a 4-parter rather than a 2-parter because that's what aired and that's what I can do. I don't think the 2-part version had a broadcast, or at the very least, not a proper one. That being said, the Fatal Death Doctors, all 5 of them, only appeared in the 1 month of that year, so all 4 episodes aired on the same night. So again, bottom of the list with the Peter Cushing movie Doctor, although don't compare the runtimes. The Cushing Doctor is way off. Finally, we have the Schalke Doctor. Now, firstly, I'm not counting his cameo in Rogue, as that is just his face. If it was him properly, I probably would put that down, because only the guest doctors would get this treatment. So, for just Scream of the Shouker. Now, Scream of the Shouker did air in 6 parts, and that aired those aired 3 parts in November 2003 and 3 in December 2003. Meaning that the Shouker Doctor had at least 1 episode in 2 of the months of 2003, November and December. Meaning the Shouker Doctor now joins the 8th Doctor and the War Doctor of the 2-month position of the ranking. So if I was updating the ranking at what would be number 11, I didn't put this down on the actual ranking, but what would be number 11 would be the movie and the Fatal Death Doctors. Then number 10 is the 8th War and Shouker Doctors. Number 9 would be the 14th Doctor. Number 8 would be the 5th, 9th and 15th Doctors. And number 7 would be the Fugitive Doctor. And then the top 6 remain the same. So Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor knocks down Doctors 5, 9, 15, 14 and 8 by a position. And then there is one more placement at the bottom underneath the 8th Doctor, who is then joined by the War and the Shouker Doctors. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.